Welcome to Gamechangers live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome to another episode of Game Changers. We do this each and every week, and you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook Live, wherever you catch your episodes. You can catch us here every week as we interview game changers in their field. And I'm really, really excited about today's episode because we have a modern day explorer in the person of Dan Schieber, who is the CEO of Goldhaven Resources Corp, based out of Canada. And so Dan is the CEO, and he established his careers in metals and mining finance as an analyst for the Stabilitas Group of Funds in 2005. In 2009, he co-founded Euroscandic International Group, where he raised upwards of $350 million in project financing for specific development projects in the mining sector. And in 2011 to 15, he pivoted to Canadian-based farmland investments, where he became the chief investment officer at Dynamis Capital Corp, which focuses on long-term recession-proof investments with emphasis on gold and silver. And so Dan has a dynamic background, and you're really going to enjoy this show. So welcome, Dan. I appreciate you being on.
Happy to be here, Sergio.
Fantastic. So you can hear Dan's accent. So he's actually from Guatemala with a German parent and living in Canada. So that makes quite a combination.
It makes me quite a mutt, actually. But I grew up in Guatemala and moved here to Canada when I was 18. So.
Fantastic. So Goldhaven Resources Corp just recently acquired 7 projects for exploration in northern Chile. And why I call them a modern day explorer is because the Mother Nature put gold in the ground, and it's their job to find it and expand it and grow their business that way. So that's got to be really exciting to do this as a living, right?
It certainly is, yes. It's very exciting. You know, our team is a very, very experienced team. My VP Exploration, he discovered one of the largest copper mines in the world called Escondida. And
I've been there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Like I said, I worked for Caterpillar for 14 years, and the tail end of my career was in the mining sector. And It's unbelievable because if you haven't been to northern Chile, it's like walking on the moon. And literally, Escondida is one of those places where they even have a place nearby called La Luna del Valle. Sorry, La Valle de la Luna, right? Or something like that. Which is like,
exactly.
Literally, they film
it really is the desert. That's a benefit for us because, you know, that's where you want to mine. You don't want flora nor fauna around. And you want to be as least impacting to the environment as possible, of course.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you end up being the CEO of a gold exploration company out of Guatemala with German parents in Canada? Give me some of that story because this is very inspiring, and inspiring others on their journey.
Yeah, I like I mentioned, I moved at 18 years of age, and I went to college here and studied business. And in my third year, my former boss picked me up from school and took me to a couple of meetings downtown. And I asked him, well, what do you do? And he says, I invest in gold. And I thought that was very interesting. And in fact, Vancouver has one of the highest geologists per capita. So there's a lot of geologists running around here in town trying to find those ore deposits all around the world to bring to production and satisfy the demand. But I started off, in his office room. He didn't even have a chair for me. I was on his floor opening mail, and luckily for me, I know how to speak German, so I was communicating with some of the unit holders in Germany of the fund. And also I was, going around town once I got some experience to get to know these mining companies and know what makes them successful or a failure, and in most cases a failure. So my job became quickly to recommend investments to the fund, and they would knock down sometimes 9 out of 10 things that I would suggest, or even 10 out of 10 things that I would suggest. But the one remaining was, I got to learn why they like that, and so developed some knowledge as to what makes these things a success.
And some thick skin and resilience, right? When you get rejected 9 times out of 10, but the 10th actually works, then it kind of gives you some momentum to build on, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing that I'm grateful for learning is you, as a salesperson, and many people in different professions are salespeople, and you have to remember that they're not shooting you down; they're shooting down the product that you're selling. And never take it personally, and just keep going. Keep going. If you actually believe this product is something that's necessary, then you can go and hit your head against the wall many times, but you will succeed if you keep going. Yeah.
So you didn't realize that you wanted to be in gold, right? Until an opportunity presented itself that struck a nerve, that captured your interest. For many people that begin their careers and they kind of get locked in, right? Just kind of by happenstance. And 20 years later, they're in there and they feel like they're in a dead end career.
Yeah.
What I always suggest is look back in your life at those times where things captured your imagination, where, follow the breadcrumbs, follow those clues that get you excited, because that's where the real gold is in your life and your career. And so you found that in gold early on and were able to then kind of manifest that, right, as you through hard work and dedication.
Yeah. Well, the first breadcrumbs that I started following were just seeing this fund grow from 3 million euros to 250 in a matter of a couple of years, and I thought, well, these guys must be doing something right. But it came from the task of getting to know or financial markets, getting to know on a macro level what's going on out there. It was around the time also when they stopped reporting the M3 monetary aggregate. For those who don't know, is there's been a lot of money printing being done, even more so recently. But it started already a long time ago, and 2006 was one of those years. It was my first year in the business, and and you could see how that was starting to impact solid asset classes like gold and silver, and even other metals. And so it's a really great opportunity to have some time to read. Some time to read about what's going on the big picture. What is the world of finance actually look like? Be inquisitive, and those were the first breadcrumbs, like you were saying, Sergio, that I started to follow, and very quickly you get to understand what the world is really about, what our financial system is doing, and how you're going to protect yourself against it. The most interesting flicker that went off in my brain was we need to be involved with something that will outlast the current financial system, and it really put everything into perspective. It put savings into perspective. It made me question the banks. It made me question their offering to us, and what opportunities are available and what opportunities we know of. It's all being packaged to us. So I didn't become a complete skeptic, but I did, want to take my savings, my retirement into my own hands instead of, giving it to the bank to manage for me. And
self-education is the best investment you could ever make. and having a view of the big picture of things, of kind of the mechanics of how things work in life, especially your money and how the money system flows, is important. It's really important. And everything that's happening right now in the economy, like you said, where the banks and the Fed are printing money like there's no tomorrow, what is that doing then to the value of the dollar and the impact then that has on gold prices, where it's a physical asset that you can actually hold, and there's only so much of it on the planet versus, there could be endless dollars
Yeah.
printed, and we're going to be using them as drapes soon, in our house. So tell me a little bit about that exchange and kind of how that plays in.
Yeah. Well, it was 2009, and I had just left the fund. It was March, and I started the company Euroscandic, where we did more project financing for mining companies. That's where I got to know the cat guys out of Nashville, because they obviously lent to projects to get their equipment in. And you know, mining is a brick and mortar type of business. So you have to go and you have to explore, you have to de-risk, you have to then break ground, and hopefully by the end of all this stuff, you're earning something.
Right.
But it's a fickle
Yeah.
because it's a depleting asset normally. You start with a certain amount of ounces and then you're mining it out until there's nothing. The idea is to keep the exploration up. But in 2009, after the financial crash, gold and silver and other metals, they had a really nice run until 2011, and where it peaked. And for the next 10 years, fast forward to today, or 9 years, it's been an incredible time in the general markets. The Dow, the NASDAQ, everything's been going through the roof. And it left all of us, in the gold business looking like chumps for at least 7 or 8 years, until we started seeing a little bit of the action of it earlier this year with COVID hitting, and also the year preceding it was not bad. But the amount of money being printed right now is incredible. It's the only reason why the stock market is holding up the way it is. It's because people are not chasing bonds or treasuries anymore. They're going into higher risk stuff, like the market, and the valuations don't make any sense anymore, which is a very scary situation, really. I mean, it's I'm not looking forward to how this ends. But how can we protect ourselves is the question. And that's what I concern myself every day with, is how am I going to protect my investors? How am I going to protect myself? And the solutions that I've come up with is investing in farmland, which is, the source of food for the world.
Mhm.
Investing in preservation of wealth, which to me means precious metals, the producers that produce precious metals, the royalty companies that benefit from the cash flow of precious metals, and of course, the smaller, more speculative stories such as my company Goldhaven. And but I do all of it, all across the board. We used to have a farmland fund where we bought land in Saskatchewan, and Saskatchewan's a lovely flat place right in the middle of Canada, and you can get lost there very quickly, actually. But it's it's those kind of things that I think it's important for millennials and for people that are getting into their maturity at their professions right now to rethink things and do it a little bit more like our grandparents used to do. Find value in the things that they found value in, such as owning your home or owning your piece of land, not necessarily being indebted up to the neck. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah,
Bitcoin right now is all the rage. It hit $40,000, then it's dropping down, and it's so speculative because it's all and it's hard to wrap your mind around Bitcoin. I think there's very few people that really understand the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin and so forth. So gold is always seen as an attractive asset to hold because it does increase in value. There is only so much of it and so forth. So yeah, I can see why people would do that. And I think Goldman Sachs called for it to be at like $3,000. It's at 1,800 now. Back a few years ago, we were talking that it was at $350 and it went up to 500 and people lost their mind thinking, oh my God, it's so high right now. And we're sitting at here at 1,800. So you never know where things are going to go, especially nowadays with everything going on. So we're on with Dan Schieber. He's the CEO of Gold Haven Resources out of Canada. They've acquired 250 kilometers of territory to work 7 gold mining projects in Chile. So he's doing some incredible things. He's a father of 2, one. But I said 2 because I remember that you love the water skiing and the skiing, right? The water surfing and the skiing. So fantastic guy to have on the show, buddy. So as we wrap this up, what has been a game-changing moment in your life? Something that really sparked you and your career and your appetite for where you are now and how you've impacted people around you?
One of the most wonderful things that happened in my career was I raised money for this silver company in Mexico. And the silver company in Mexico was expanding its mine. So we went and raised money for them to do so. And then we came back several years after, and the place was almost hard to recognize because it was a town. And it was full of people and a hospital and a church and all sorts of, running around by people that were working for the mine that expanded threefold. And that to me gave me an incredible satisfaction, more than the monetary side of things, because hard work usually begets profit anyways, but it was more of seeing what kind of impact you can have on people doing what you're doing, and that was a big multiplier for me. I always thought that I was in a pretty selfish business. The financial markets are driven by greed. Yeah. However, CSR and ESG, all these terms that are coming up to us now are becoming more important. I think, with COVID, the way it is, there's a lot of people losing their jobs. There's a lot of hardship out there mentally and practically. So I think everybody can, for me, the tipping point was, you can impact people with your work. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of times we don't realize the impact that we have and the things that we're doing and the impact that it has down the line because we don't necessarily see it immediately.
Yeah.
But what you're doing there, in terms of the exploration, creating jobs eventually, right? And creating livelihoods, improving the lifelines of a lot of people down in Chile is spectacular. So Dan, thank you so much for being on, buddy. You definitely are a game changer. And I want to encourage everybody out there to be a game changer in someone's life today. If you love what you heard in this episode, make sure to share it and do something spectacular. So Dan, thanks for being on, my brother.
Appreciate it, Sergio. Thank you.
If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it.